It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Lehigh Hawks head women's soccer coach, Coach Lauren Calabrese. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to become a college women's soccer coach?
Sure. I think for me, I've always loved the game. So, once I got out of, my 4 years in college, I still continued to play. Because you love the game, but you want to figure out how are different ways for you to stay connected. And for me, teaching and educating has always been in my blood as well. So it made perfect sense, right? Just to translate that. Even growing up, I was always involved in helping at youth camps. So I would say the transition from player to coach was pretty seamless for me.
What was that like going to Lehigh and obviously getting to play collegiate soccer there?
Yeah, for me, interesting, biographical information about me is I'm from the Lehigh Valley. So I grew up around Lehigh sports. And interestingly enough, I wasn't like keen on going to school at Lehigh. I was like, no, I'm going to go far away. It's too close. And, took some official visits. And I actually ended up playing my high school coach, ended up being my college coach, Manny Uden. So it was inevitable that I was going to go to Lehigh at a certain time. So I think, making that transition to playing at Lehigh, it doesn't matter, I think, from a college standpoint where you live geographically. If the campus is 2 minutes from your house versus 5 hours, it's just a different experience once you become a college student athlete.
Of course, during your collegiate time, what was that like, obviously playing in your hometown area and having your friends and family still be able to see you play in college?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. College soccer is, we always say there's a learning curve there, and a lot of it has to do with you're challenged and how do you feel supported. So I think for me, having my support system, having my parents, family, friends in the area is always helpful. But it's interesting. I found that a lot of my friends benefited from having my family in the area too. I would learn that one of my, roommates or teammates would say, "Hey, we're going to your parents' house for dinner." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't get an invite. Like, well, why wasn't I invited?" So I think, it created a lot of community for my friends. But really allowed Lehigh to feel like a family atmosphere for sure.
What was that feeling like getting to represent them and put on that jersey?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing like it. It's really interesting. Even, I don't know, the first couple of months out of being done with collegiate soccer, I, would coach games or be at games and hearing the national anthem. Right. There's just something about, right, like standing there with your uniform on that you're becoming a part of something that's really important, really sacred. And there's no way to explain it. I mean, like once you're in it, it's, I think you play soccer your whole life. So it's just another game. But, the meaning behind the legacy in which, you're playing with players who've come before you is a big deal.
During your collegiate time, what were some of your biggest accomplishments as a player?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I came in and, I was a starter. I was all league. But I have to say, right, I think some of the biggest accomplishments you don't see, right? We tell our players this a lot. You don't see what that looks like. For me, right? It's overcoming adversity or some forms of failure. For me, it was playing on a team, right? Like my junior year, we won the league. We had I don't know, some national record in terms of goals. We held the record for goals against average. So I think it was more about, right, learning how do I apply my individual skill set within the team concept and learning how to really lean into team. I think, right, like individually, I always had high standards for myself as a player. But learning how to apply that in a team setting is a real hard challenge. But one that I would say is one of my biggest accomplishments.
After your collegiate soccer career, what was that like, obviously getting into club soccer and becoming a coach for the club level?
Yeah, I mean, I think again with what I said before, I think getting to play at not play, but to coach is a great way to give back to the game. And for me, it made sense. I was also in grad school to be, an educator. And so, yeah, it was great. I was at the club level. I also coached at the middle school level, girls, boys. Like it was just a great time to give back to the game.
How was that transition, like you said, going back to grad school to become an educator to then getting into college coaching and finding a career in college coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I could say that for me, I was exploring, right? I was following a passion, right? Like I think even today, a lot of younger, like right, high school players or even college athletes struggle with, well, what am I going to do when I'm older? Like I have to have this path set out. And I think I am fortunate where I have the support, I have great family support, with my parents, my friends, my husband, right, where I could follow my passion. Going to grad school, I love anyone who knows me. I'm an academic at heart, so I love to learn, love to read. I love good conversation and dialogue. So putting myself in an environment that would allow me to grow and flourish like that, I'm always seeking those environments out. And so naturally, teaching, going back to get my MED and then my master's in English made sense for me. And coaching went hand in hand for me.
What was that feeling like coming back to your alma mater to first start and become the assistant coach?
Yeah, I mean, that was also an interesting life transition. I had just given birth to my first son, Tucker, and I was on maternity leave. And the current head coach, Eric Lambinas, approached me and was like, hey, like, we have an opening in the assistant position. Would you be interested? And, initially I was like, no, like I just had I just had a baby. Like I'm going to go back to teaching. It makes sense. But right, there's always been this, as I said earlier, an internal passion or fire that was, like, yeah, go do it. Like you love the game, why not? And so again, I felt support from Coach Lambinas and my family, and it seemed great.
What were some of the things that you learned as an assistant coach and a volunteer assistant?
Sure, a lot. I think there are a lot of things I've learned. I think a lot of, right, like any job, it's from the outside, you have maybe some assumptions about what it's like, but when you're in a role, explicitly in sport, it's incredibly relational, meaning that, the people you work with, you see them a lot, sometimes more than family. And so, having the ability to cultivate healthy relationships with not only your players, but, with your peers, with your coaching staff, with coaches outside of the league, with coaches in the league, with your administrators. There's such a hidden curriculum that I wasn't necessarily aware of that, you're navigating in college soccer. So I would say there's a lot there, but I would distill it down to, navigating personal relationships.
Of course, in 2010, what was it like, obviously, seeing your team go on to the Patriot League championship?
Yes, super exciting. First time in program history that, the team won a championship. So, I mean, like obviously feel a sense of connection there, even as my tenure as a player, when I played with Gina and Aaron Awashkowitz, we had a whole contingent of players who we're so close right there, right? And, just had some heartbreaking ends to seasons, to careers, right? Like it's tough to end your career, right? When you're in the hunt for a championship. So to be able to experience that on a coaching level, it's not the same as being a player, but it brings a sense of pride and an experience that, I want to be able to help translate and honor that group, the 2010 group, that our team can do it. Our team can do it now.
Of course, in 2016, what was that feeling like getting promoted to become the associate head coach?
Yeah, becoming an associate head coach, that was, it was an honor for me. Putting in the work again is an important thing. And as I said, it's cultivating those relationships, earning the trust and just working. I think a lot of that you learn in sport, but, I think a lot of the work you do as a coach in sport, you don't see. Typically you're right, like you're evaluated off your wins and your losses, but there's a lot more complexity. So, I mean, the moments through which, there is a little bit of visibility, you have.
Of course, in 2018, what was that like going as a coach to the conference championship after obviously seeing it in 2010 happen?
And I think, again, like another incredible experience. That particular team, we had some ups and downs throughout that season. So to be able to make it to the championship game was really impressive and an incredible display of what fortitude and grit looks like.
Of course, going into before last season, what was that feeling and that anticipation of becoming the next head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm someone who inherently I'm a grinder, right? Like I like to just like go out and do the work. And I think there is a sense of visibility to this position that there is a bit of pressure, right? So of course there's anticipation, but for me, I was more about like, let's get to work. Let's get moving. And right, like when you're building your own team culture, that takes time. So you have to be patient. You have to put the right people around you, right? So building your staff, I would say, is the most important thing on top of recruiting both staff and right, like your student athletes. So I can say that again, I was supported. I had a great support system around me from our deputy AD, Sutran, who had knows what it's like to be a coach, to Gina, who, she's making a life transition, but we're in the trenches together, to our volunteer assistant, Bill, who's been instrumental just in terms of creating stability and consistency for our team.
What was that feeling like personally for you getting announced to become the next head coach for Lehigh?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a whirlwind. I wasn't expecting the shift to occur right away, but incredibly grateful that Joe Sterrett, our dean of athletics, athletic director at Lehigh, had the trust, that the program had the trust in me. Again, like a great feeling, right? Just for me, knew I could do it, just didn't know that I would get the call up in that particular moment. But you never know when you're ready until you're asked to do something. And so, yeah, just thrilled to be in this position.
Of course, after becoming the head coach and building your coaching staff, what was that like, obviously giving that call to Gina to come back to her alma mater, just like you, to become a coach?
Yeah, so it was multiple calls, right? And we had it would be great if it was one call, but it was a series of calls. Gina was, transitioning, hitting a crossroads in her life as well. And so, growing up, we always, we always said we were going to play together, and we did in college, and that, eventually we would coach together. And so I think, right, like for us, it made sense, but just figuring out the logistics of actually doing it. So when we finally were able to, yes, this is the direction we're moving in, I think Gina's were very similar. We hit the ground running. So I think we also need to take time to like take that in and really appreciate it. But it's been, Gina's been instrumental and will continue to be instrumental in paving the way for the direction and the future of this program.
How's it been like so far? Obviously, you being an alma mater and Gina also being an alma mater and former NWSL player. How has that been like, obviously, having that both of y'all on the coaching staff, teaching the players that one day they can go on to the NWSL?
Yeah, I mean, I think having role models, right, is a really important thing. I think, we lived it. So I think, that hopefully gives a sense of, inspiration, and trust for our players. I think developing that rapport, that trusting relationship with player to coach, but also player to player is important. I think, Gina and I, right, like we were teammates, and just to learn what does it look like to collaborate, to work. You have two powerful women working together. So for us, we really want to be able to create a culture where we celebrate other women, we celebrate our strengths, and we just empower each other to achieve and to compete.
What was that feeling like for you to step on that soccer field for the first time as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty awesome. I think, but in the spring of 2022, that's what we consider to be our non-championship season. So we were able to play a few games, right? So when we were in season, we had our first, opening game. There was still, right, there's still a sense of anticipation that you don't get unless it's, your first home game. Everyone's, decked out in their white uniforms. You got the fans there, got the atmosphere. Nothing's like that, right? Like it's a very indescribable feeling, but just super proud to be able to represent.
How's that been like, obviously having your friends and family with you still being at home in the area, having your friends and family support you and come to the games and see you as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like we really want to think about Lehigh as a community. So for me, like, right, what does it take for an individual or a team or a program to witness success? It has to do with the support they have around them. And so, I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my husband and I both work full time. So it requires, right? Like it requires support. I couldn't take everything on, I couldn't take it on. So I am, in a phase of my life where, I will embrace community and, it's a sign of strength, I think, not weakness, to say when you really want to lean into the people around you.
Who are some of the teams that you face each week in your conference?
Yeah, so in the Patriot League, it's incredibly competitive. We have Army, Navy, Boston University, Colgate, Bucknell, Holy Cross, Loyola, Lafayette, who is one of our big rival, but no big deal. Let me see. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody. And American. So, we're East Coast, geographically mid-Atlantic. I think the location of Lehigh is a great one, right? So we don't have to travel super far to be able to play really competitive teams. So, but it's essentially an any given Sunday scenario in our league. You have some really strong teams, playing a competitive non-league schedule. And that's what you want to see in our game. The better the other teams are doing, the better it is for us. I mean, yes, we want to win a Patriot League championship, but we want to continue to grow our league.
What is that like, obviously hosting teams like Boston University and Army to your facility versus going to Princeton or Colgate to play them?
Yeah, I mean, I think for any team, your home field should be an advantage, right? And so I think, I don't want to jinx us, but we won all of our our home league games. And so you should be able to take care of business, defend your territory, whatever metaphor you want to use. But it is a really nice experience for the athletes to travel, right? And I think part of learning how to compete is, how do you create what we like to call a home away advantage? So what are some things that you can control no matter where you are, if you're at home or in your away? And I think as a team, we're learning to become better at competing away. And, I think the best teams in the league and across the country know how to travel, but they take care of business at home first.
What has that been like, obviously getting to play those service academy schools along with playing those other schools like Princeton?
Yeah, I mean, playing Navy, Army, it's a different feeling. It's a different vibe, and it's an incredible experience. I mean, amazing campuses. Go up to West Point. We were up there twice this year. They were had parachuters, so people jumping out of airplanes before both games. I mean, a little bit of an intimidation tactic, but it's an amazing, with the history and what Army and Navy represent for our country. It's an honor to be able to play against those, right, those institutions. And I think for us, right, we hadn't beaten Navy in a number of years. And so for us this past year we hosted them twice, and to have, come out with a win both times was a huge shift for our program. So, playing Army, that's another one. They're super tough. And I think that's, we can prepare to play against those teams, and we know we can stay in games with them. We can beat those teams. It gives you just a complete sense of confidence that should inform how we play every game.
As a head coach, what are some of your accomplishments so far?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I think that depends on what you define as accomplishments. I think, right, for us, we talk about developmental priorities. So a lot of that has to do with building trusting relationships. And another piece of that is, creating healthy habits and prioritizing well-being. Right. In my opinion, you cannot have successful teams or cultures unless you have healthy relationships, right? And you have trust. You need those things to perform and to be successful. And the next piece to there is, I think a lot of teams right now, used to hear this language about peak performance. Now it's really about health optimization. Players cannot be at their best, teams cannot be at their best if we're not taking care of health. So that gets down to mental health, physical health, right? Spiritual, psychological. There are a lot of dimensions to that I think Lehigh offers a lot of resources and we're particularly distinctive in. So for me, there's from a programmatic perspective and a cultural perspective, that's what I consider to be an accomplishment. From a competitive outcomes perspective, we were able to host a Patriot League playoff game, win that game, and we ended up in the semifinals. We were tied in the league for the most amount of goals scored. We have a lot of data that suggests that we're really starting to generate a lot of offensive opportunities. Right. I think we have a lot of players on our team who can contribute. We certainly have some key players like Corinne Light, who was an offensive player of the year. We also had 5 total student athletes receive all league honors. You have someone like a Maddie Murphy, who's a senior, who, was a 3rd team all league player, but also an incredible academic student in the classroom and out of the classroom, traveling to the UN to present data that she, had participated in a study in Chile for a scholarship. So, I think holistically, there's a lot to be proud of just in terms of our student athletes. And so, for me, you're always thinking about what are those different aspects or dimensions of the program that will allow you to assess in real time, right? And also determine what are those goals moving forward.
What was that like, obviously, getting to hoist and host, obviously, the conference championship?
Yeah, so to host the quarterfinal game was awesome atmosphere. Again, like I said earlier, having that home advantage should it should be hard to play against us there, hard to beat us, and it should be a sense of pride. So I think for our players, our program, we're really starting to put in experiences that will reaffirm that objective for us. We had a great crowd, and the team played incredibly well. So you can't ask for anything else.
As a head coach, what are some of your game day routines and rituals like now as a coach versus your time as a player?
Yes. As a coach, I'm not really resting. I try to stay hydrated. It's just really thinking about managing the controllables, depending if it's home versus away, sorting out administrative factors, like making sure that we have the right food in place, that transportation is on time. Right. I try to get a workout in myself in the morning, depending on when the game is, just to decompress and give some time back to myself. But as a player, you were more like focused in on your particular routine, and you didn't really have you weren't really aware of everything else. Oh, like, are the balls pumped? Is the food ready? There are all of those other logistics that aren't on your radar. So totally different, but I think I can still, I still see parallels in some way.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes?
Yeah, great question. I think, for women's soccer, our timeline is a little more accelerated than some of the other sports. So according to NCAA rules, as a Division I program, we cannot formally interact or contact with you until June 15th, going into your junior year. So for us, we're focusing on the current class of juniors, which will graduate in 2024. This does not mean that we don't evaluate other players. We're just not allowed contact with other players. So we do have ID clinics. We are going to start having elite youth camp clinics as well as middle school clinics. So, recruitment is on our end, figuring out what is our talent pool, how big is our talent pool, where are particular geographical areas we need to target, where are the local areas versus, some other areas of interest, what kind of student athlete are we looking for? Well, academics need to be prioritized, right? You have to be meeting certain standards to be able to be a student athlete here. there's so many variables that come into play, but my recommendation for a student athlete who's beginning the stage is, you have to do your homework. And to do homework, to me, that means to go and experience the campus, to experience, go to a clinic or go to a game. I think it's really important that you're watching a team train. Those informal moments are important because at the end of the day, you're going to spend a lot of time together, right? Like you spend a lot of hours training. We train more than we play games. You spend a lot of time, on the bus, in meetings, film review. So, I think it's just really important that culturally it's what what you're looking for and you feel supported.
As a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at on the road in those prospective athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, there's certain traits or characteristics criteria. We have a recruiting structure that we look at. For us, we look for athleticism. That's an important thing for us. Versatility, your work rate, your ability to see the game. Typically, yes, for each class, we're looking for types of positions, to fill through. But if you have a skill set that's super compelling and that we could see that applies, would work well within our team dynamic and the system we play in, then yeah, the style of play that we like. So a lot of it varies from program to program. But I think, right, as a staff, we're always willing to take a look at somebody. You have to be, right? Like, I think that's a really important thing. A lot of people play soccer. And so it's just important that, right, like you're figuring out how to evaluate players.
What does the official visit look like for those prospective student athletes coming on the campus and seeing the campus that you fell in love with once as a player?
So there's a difference for us between official and unofficial. So an unofficial visit is typically what our uncommitted players take. And so they'll come on campus, we'll set up a day for them. They'll go to a class with a student athlete. We typically want to put them with someone who is, so they can attend a class that is aligned with a major or like a field of interest that they're looking to study. Go to lunch with players, get a campus tour. You get to meet with our Flight 45 staff. Usually you'll meet an administrator, tour facilities. So you get an on-campus tour, but then also a facilities tour. We have 3 different campuses at Lehigh. So again, we try to present the 360 perspective or overview where people are getting, right, the true immersive experience of what it feels like to be a student athlete. In terms of official visit, usually our student athletes take official visits after they commit. And so we'll arrange a time where their entire class, so for instance, our incoming class next year, the class 2023, they all came in the fall for a game and were able to stay over the weekend and right, like, again, feel a part of the team. So I think, right, like there's some technical differences between the two, and also has a lot to do with what state you're in, but that's the alignment there has to do with right, like wanting to give everybody that full experience of what it means to be a student athlete.
As a head coach, what is it like obviously seeing them put on that jersey for the first time that you put on as a player?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool experience. It's pretty wild that, every year someone new is putting on a jersey, which is just, right, bringing in more people to, right, like our collective of Lehigh women's soccer players. So it's a cool one to see the program grow and to see, the next generation of players, contribute to what it means to be a Lehigh women's soccer player.
As a coach, what is it like obviously seeing those seniors go on and make it to the NWSL or even the national team?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us at our level, right, not many people, most people when they're graduating are choosing to like go into a right, like a professional career that's not usually soccer, but we have had people like Gina is a perfect example. We have had people go and play abroad. Mostly we have people, who want to go to medical school or PT school, or they want to go on to be a teacher. They want to go to law school, or they go into finance and work in the city. It's a very rewarding experience. Like it's a rite of passage to graduate, and it's bittersweet because, a lot of these women have been playing soccer their whole lives. So there's a transition that happens there for everybody in terms of, you put in a lot of work for 4 years, longer than that. But at Lehigh, it's a different experience, and we're super proud of the women who graduate and get to go on and, hopefully come back and give back.
As a head coach, what is it like, obviously, seeing your players achieve their first and their career highs?
Yeah, I mean, I think like any player, a lot of collegiate soccer, it's not a straight linear progression, meaning there are a lot of ups and downs. And so, again, what you don't really see is right, like the training every day, the amounts of hours people train out of season. So to see a player experience success, you just have to be incredibly proud and happy for them.
What are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
Yeah, so for us, we want to, as we like to say, stay the course. We want to continue to elevate our competitive profile as a team. Right. And so what does that mean? That means, continuing to shape our culture, to define and determine standards. Right. It also means recruiting. It also means leveraging, we really want, as alums, Gina and I really want to continue to build our alumni base, and really like get more people involved. And so, we're definitely on the right path for sure. And so just really excited about the future of our program.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to become college soccer players?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what I said before. I would do some research, get on campus, attend ID clinics, invite coaches to come see you. Right. I think a lot of that too is just to figure out what you want, what kind of experience you want. I think there's so many teams. If you're interested in playing college soccer, there's different levels. And I think if you really are committed to the game and you love the game and you aspire to play at the next level, there can be a spot for you. Just, you have to figure out what that looks like.
What advice would you give those freshmen that are entering their freshman year of college playing collegiate soccer?
Yeah, so I think it's always you're thrown into the deep end, and I think a lot of the first semester is navigating survival, to be honest. Right, you're adapting to a totally new culture, and you're in a competitive season. So the team has how many other years of experience depending on what year you are, and so we have our goals, and we don't really have much time. We hit the ground running. So I think one thing coming in is make sure, right, you have a sense of what your process is, your preparation process, and also where are your support systems, because someone in college soccer, at some point, you're going to endure adversity or you're going to struggle in some way. It's usually in that struggle that you gain some insight about yourself, and then you can actually get stronger and better. And so I think it's having a bit of resiliency, right? And figuring out what are some of those strategies that are going to help you overcome moments that are tough. So for some people, it's, having, parents to talk to, it's, having really good relationships with people. I think that's really important, but it's also to center yourself and figure out, right, is that meditation, right? Is that participating in something that's not soccer? That's not like really time intensive, right? Like I'm not suggesting go horseback riding during the season, but is there something like journaling or drawing or right, something that's going to give you an outlet? And I think the sooner you can figure out trial and error of what those things are, the more successful you will be at this level.
What advice would you give those college athletes that are looking to go and play professionally, whether it's the NWSL or the U.S. Women's National Team?
Yeah, I mean, I think, right, it's putting yourself in positions where you're ready to play. And so, if you're, typically at our level, not a lot of people are being drafted. That doesn't mean that we don't have players who can operate in that talent pool to play. But, look at Gina, you have to sometimes go the unconventional route. You have to be willing to grind. You have to be willing to put in work. And I think the end of the day, if it's something you aspire to, it can be achievable, given, you're willing to work and you have the talent to succeed at that level.
What advice would you give those future college coaches looking to get started in coaching, whether it's on the assistant coaching side or even head coach side?
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what, if you're interested, you don't totally know what it looks like, you want to be head coach. I think being curious is a really important thing. Asking questions, taking an initiative. There are ways to get involved in the game. Soccer is an awesome game. We have the United Soccer Coaches organization that has a wonderful resource, right? If people don't really know where to turn, there's a wonderful resource right there in terms of thinking about what are ways I can become involved in the game. For some people, they want to go right into collegiate coaching. For others, they don't. They're maybe not. So I think it's always honing your craft as a coach and continuing just to take opportunities, educational opportunities, even conversational opportunities with people at different levels.
What advice would you give those coaches that are looking to become head coaches of their alma mater, just like you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with serendipity a little bit, meaning that it's all about putting in work, a body of work that, yes, you can be trusted as an athlete, but you're not the same just because you succeeded as an athlete doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach. And I think figuring out what your process is, figuring out what's important to you, and then for me, like a lot of my values, my personal values, my professional values, the way I've evolved and developed as a person and as a professional has really been intimately informed by my experiences at Lehigh. So, I wasn't by design saying, oh, I'm going to I wasn't, had it in my mind, oh, I'm going to be the head coach. It was more, I want to be in that environment because I feel like I can grow. And so for me, taking the opportunity to get back in your environment that's your alma mater, I mean, that's to me would be the highest level advice is, it's important you have other experiences that, take you outside of it. I was at the secondary high school level for a while, coached club, and so was out of it for a little bit. So I think that will give you perspective. I don't think there's one correct way to do it, but I think, getting back to, for me, the reason of being at Lehigh is what I said philosophically, the values, the environment has just been instrumental to my growth in all aspects.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Lehigh Women's Soccer Program?
Yeah, you can look into our Instagram. I think we're on Twitter too. I also have an Instagram account. I'm not as active on it, but our team is pretty active. We're going to be rebranding, rethinking through our Lehigh W Soccer is our Instagram handle. So yeah, check us out.
Thank you again, Coach Lauren Calabrese, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Lehigh Women's Soccer Program.
Awesome. Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you'll find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Lauren, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.